lesson 6, and it's called the do-gooder. And the reason that it's called the do-gooder is because it focuses on scenarios, cases where a person does good for another person, and then wants compensation for it, right? So let's start with case number 1. The question is as follows: is a benefactor entitled to compensation for work that was not solicited? So I don't ask you to do anything for me. You come and do something for me as a good deed, or maybe it's not a good deed. We have to have a look at those different scenarios. Are you trying to just force me into business with you, or are you doing something on my behalf, and then do I have to pay you for whatever you did? Hi, welcome. All right, so let's read case number 1. Shall we start here on the left?
Adam Klein, a contractor, drives by a house in late fall and notices that the gutters are in very poor shape. It seems likely that there will be some damage to the property if they are not fixed before the winter. He knocks on the door, but there is no response. After speaking to the neighbors, it turns out that the homeowners have gone to Florida for the winter, and no one has their contact information. He decides to replace the gutters anyway, hoping he will be reimbursed when the homeowners return. Is this real?
What?
Is this a real case? When the homeowners come home in the spring, he hands them a bill for the new gutters, explaining that the work couldn't wait until the winter was over without placing the house at risk for water damage. The homeowners tell him that while they do appreciate the new gutters and the craftsmanship, they don't think they owe him anything, as he did this of his own accord. Can Adam recover his expenses?
Is this real? What?
He's lucky they don't
He
sue
was.
him.
They do it all the time with like the snow and
What?
the grass cutters and the snow shovel. They come all the time to their house and do that. They like,
Oh, really?
want to go and they're ready to start doing it.
Sure.
But they don't start till you say
Right,
start.
but they like get ready. They like want it and they come and ring your bell.
So they're coming to kind of blow away your
Yeah, they-
fall leaves, or to clean the snow in the winter, or to cut the grass in the summer?
Or the squeaky
Oh, that's what
people, that want to do your windshield.
When you stop at the traffic light. Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
actually do it. That's the thing.
This is just a more expensive
Right.
kind act. So what do you think? Can he recover his expenses? No. Why?
I don't think so.
Okay, Florence, let's hear from you.
But I don't think he can. Even though the homeowners appreciated it and thought the work was good, but just as okay, I own my own condo, and I don't think I would be paying somebody who came by and automatically fixed my garage door just out of the goodness of their heart, and then billed me for it when I didn't ask them to do that.
Okay, I hear you. Yeah, you want to say something?
I think the only case where I would reimburse the person who did it was if other people could have been. If other
Can you hear
people-
Florence?
If
No,
other,
I heard, not the first woman
Speak
that
up.
went, I can hear
that
her
if other
very
people
well,
could
but
have
not
been hurt
now.
by my
this up, okay.
property damage, and I would have been sued for it, and they prevented that suit, then they could have. Then there might be some room for
So there would have been an additional benefit
right.
to the homeowner.
Right. If
Uh-huh.
if my doing this prevented a loss to the home.
Right,
Says it did
right.
prevent the loss.
Well, I want to
No,
point
this-
something out.
No, I'm talking about an obvious loss.
Okay, but look at what this says. It says it seems likely, it's not certain, but it seems likely that there will be some damage to the property if they're not fixed before the
To
winter.
the property, but not that they're looking at a $3 million lawsuit because somebody was.
Well, let's say they're away for the winter. I'll give you an example, all right? A friend of mine is forgetful. She always tells me, I'll be there, and then she doesn't show up. So the last time we made an appointment, she calls me up. I sent her an email and I said, oh, well, missed you, dear. And then she calls me back. I say, hello. She says, in blood. I said, what? She says, write it in blood. I will be there on Tuesday at noon. She's like, very funny. So I said, okay, I'm putting it down. I'll put it in ink. How's that? She says, blood. Anyway, Tuesday at noon, she doesn't show up. So I shoot her this email. I said, so much for blood. I'll see you in July, where we normally meet up after the year for the summer. Anyway, she wasn't in touch, and then at a certain point I called her and I said, "No, call her Rivka." I said, "No, Rivka, what's the story? I haven't heard from you." She says, "I wish you were the only person I was forgetful towards." She says, "My mother told me she was going to Florida." Oh, that's so interesting. She was going for Florida. It's the winter. My mother said to me, "Rivka, can you please turn up the heat in the house? Because if you don't, it's going to," okay, this was asked of her, "it's going to, the pipes will burst. They'll freeze and burst." So she says, "No problem, Ma, no problem." She says, "And I forgot to turn up the pipes, and we are now 2 weeks later and $70,000 in damages to the property." So let's say he didn't fix the gutters. It's raining, sleet, comes into the property. He thinks that there is going to be damage to the property, and he wants to save the person the loss that will be incurred by not fixing it. I'm just playing devil's advocate. Is he out to make money for himself and coerce the homeowner into business with him, which is, I think, what your immediate take was, right? Like, is this real? Or isn't there another possibility that he's saying, well, you know, I see, and he's a real do-gooder. This guy's going to lose a lot of money.
You can't demand it. The same aspect, the same way you did it out of the goodness of his heart, you might want to give it to him out of the goodness of yours. But
So it would be lifnim meshurus hadin for the homeowner to pay him.
yeah, the same with you, but you can't.
Okay.
It's illegal.
Great. So let's have a look at text number 1 to see. Remember, I have pointed out a number of times what Rebbetzin Heller taught me, which was what? That if you want to know what halacha is, ask the average Jew in the street and then do the opposite. Because our sense, our intuition is very culturally determined as opposed to what Torah says is real. So let's have a look at the text number 1.
What if the homeowner's going to come home and sell the property, but maybe they're making a strip mall there? I mean, who's to say they're going to come back and live in that house?
Okay.
And do that gutter?
Right, so there are all of these arguments back and forth, and we're going to look at each one of these. The guy's trying to coerce him into business, or he was a real do-gooder trying to save him money, or the guy didn't care if his property went to, the dogs and decayed because he had a pending contract with someone to sell it. All right, let's go.
A case occurred in which a certain person came before Rob, saying that someone had planted trees in his field without permission and was now demanding compensation for the unsolicited work. Rob said to him, "Go and assess the value of his work and then pay him that amount." The owner of the field then said to Rob, "But I do not want those trees, for I want to use my field for grain or vegetables. Why should I have to pay him for planting the trees in my field?" Rob then...
Okay, so I just want to do it as we go so that we don't have to come back. What's he saying over here? First he said pay him, and then what does the owner of the field say?
He doesn't want
I don't want the trees, right? Why do I have to pay him for what I don't want? Okay.
So then, if it's something that you do want, then you do pay.
Okay, so that's what we're going to see. Does the homeowner want it, or does the homeowner not want it? So let's have a look at how Rav clarifies the ruling.
Rob then clarified this ruling and said to him, "Go and assess both his costs and the value of the improvements and pay him the lesser of the two. Since the work was unsolicited, the man who planted the trees is at a disadvantage."
Okay, so now he's giving him leeway, right? You have the right to go and look to pay the lesser amount. Just what is the value of the improvement? And what are his costs? So whichever one is less, if his costs were $5,000 and the value of the improvement is $8,000, meaning not his labor, so just pay him the 5. All right, now the owner of the field is still unhappy with the answer.
The owner of the field repeated his dissatisfaction with this ruling and said to Rob, "But I do not want those trees. I should not be required to pay for them." In the end, the owner of the field was seen fencing in the area where the trees had been planted and guarding the trees. Rob then said to him, "Your actions have demonstrated that, contrary to your assertions, you are indeed pleased with what the other man did for you. Go now and assess the value of his work and pay him the ordinary wage received by someone who has hired to plant the filled trees, for now he has the upper hand."
So what is the shift over here? You said it before.
If you want to.
Does he want it, right? If you're going to pay the owner or not is judged on the subjective experience of the owner as to whether that is valuable or not. So if the owner perceives the improvement as being to his benefit, meaning there's a subjective standard, then he has to pay. And if the owner does not perceive it as being to his benefit, then he doesn't have to pay. However, halacha says, if objectively there is an improvement to the property that were necessary for the upkeep of the property, then you disregard the statement of the owner because it was necessary. However, okay, so that's a qualification.
Well, what's a necessity?
Let's say like this, that if he did not do it.
Some people it might be a necessity, and to others it's
Yeah, but I think that in terms of contractors, we're not talking here about luxuries or fixing up the floor or sanding and varnishing the wooden window frames. We're talking about something like gutters, where if it's broken or the roof is leaking and the house is going to be damaged, then, and you can assess that objectively, that the improvement was necessary for the upkeep, for the maintenance of the property, then you don't take into account the subjective perception of the homeowner. However, let's say a homeowner comes home and he says, I know that was necessary to be done, but I don't have the cash available right now. There's a reason why I didn't fix up the property, because I don't have the cash. So then what would you do? Right. You have the money and you can pay it over time. However, the homeowner can always say, take your gutters, I don't want them. If he fences in the trees and you see that he's benefiting, he wants to keep it, then fine. It's based on his relationship to these gutters that we paskin. So if he says, look, I have money invested at the moment. The potential damage to my property was 10,000 grand. But I stand to earn 20,000 on my investment, and I'm not taking the money out. If I pull the money out of the stocks in order to do it, I was prepared to risk the $10,000 damage to the property on the chance that I was going to make 20,000. Then I would fix the property and have money left over to myself. Then that homeowner can say to the worker, take your gutters, take them out, take your trees away. The fact that he fenced in the trees or someone wants to keep those gutters is a sign that he sees that there's going to be benefit to him.
They're not really the same, because you could say take your trees and then you're left with the field the same. You can't tell somebody, well, take the gutters off because you got to go get me my old gutters.
Right, right.
You got rid of the old gutters.
Well, then you could say, I want you to replace them with old second-hand gutters.
You did something to it. You took it away and threw it out.
Look, it is a subjective, at some level what we're dealing with is a ruling that has to do with the subjective experience of the homeowner, as opposed to...
Notice that Rob, every time he wasn't satisfied, Rob was okay with it. It's not like it was an absolute ruling. Right. He was pushed gradually. It's not like he said, I don't want whatever, and I shoot your car, and Rob said, well, too bad.
Mm-hmm.
But because he gave them 3 different scenarios.
They were different. Each time he was shifting the line in the sand. So the last one was the guy said, look, I don't care about it. I don't want those trees. Well, then he wouldn't have to pay for them as long as what? He gave the trees back. Take those saplings. I mean, they certainly weren't very old trees. Take your saplings and try pull this on the next guy, right? But he didn't. He fenced it in. So we're saying that that's his experience. He wanted those trees, bottom line, and therefore he has to pay for them. However,
you assuming that he wanted it, or maybe he was just making the best of the situation that they're in,
No.
so it's gonna take care of them.
Someone could make a business off of this, going around seeing whose house is damaged and then saying, your house was damaged, I'm sorry, there could have been a loss. I mean, it sounds a little bit.
I don't think he could do that today, but.
Look, in secular law, U.S. law is as follows. You only pay the laborer under 3 conditions: that he made a mistake, like maybe he thought it was one house and he went to the wrong house. He had been contracted and the number was 1269 and he went to 1296, something like that. If he was coerced to do it, or he was trying to benefit from the recipient himself. But so U.S. law is saying you can't force someone into business with you. Torah is saying something else. There is an actual benefit to this person. If the person experiences it as a benefit, he has to pay, but you cannot force him beyond a certain limit, and he does have the right to say, take your improvement out of here. I don't want it, and give me back, either uproot those trees from the field or give me back my own gutters. I don't want to have anything to do with it. All right, but now we're going to look at something that is a little bit more complex. Each of our cases tonight becomes progressively more complex. Florence, are you with us? Are you with us?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Case number 2, page 169. This is a different kind of unsolicited assistance, and that is with a loan. All right? Someone pays off another person's loan. Can the borrower be forced to return the money to the benefactor?
Hold on. He would have had to pay it to someone.
Anyway. Right.
So all he's doing is saving himself some interest.
Well, if he borrows from a Jew, he doesn't have to pay interest at all. There are many factors.
If I pay off your mortgage.
Could you explain that last thing again for me?
Which one?
You said that, I don't know if you were talking about, but somebody borrows from a Jew, you do not have to pay interest?
Right, because a Jew is not allowed to charge another Jew interest.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why you want to borrow from what's called a free loan fund.
Okay, now okay.
Gemach.
I'm in New York.
Yeah, well,
Same Jews all over.
Jews all over lend money to Jews all over at no interest. It's not even such a secret. So now what we're saying is, Nechama is saying that you borrow money from a bank, well, there you have to pay the mortgage and you would be saving the person interest on the mortgage. That would be very nice. We'll see in this case that someone has a specific motive for paying off another person's loan. Is it just that you're nice and you're paying it off? So then you could go to the guy and say, you know what, I'll pay off your loan. And when you're ready, you can pay me. And that way you'll avoid all of the interest. I'm paying the bank X. You're no longer, or your credit card, I'll pay your credit card off. You're no longer incurring interest. And then you pay me whatever I paid the credit card. Very nice. But let's have a look. Case number 2 is a little bit different from that. Sorry.
Okay. Felton Guggenheim and Joseph Kine brought merchandise to their respective businesses from the same supplier, Guggenheim Midler. The supplier agreed to give them 4 months to pick the merchandise. However, Midler announced to both his customers that if they paid him early before the deadline, he would give them a 20% discount. Guggenheim took advantage of this offer and paid off his balance. In an attempt to make a little extra money, he also paid off Kine's balance at the discounted price. After the 4 months had passed and the payments were officially due, Guggenheim notified Kine that he had paid his debt for him and that therefore Kine now owed the money to Guggenheim. Guggenheim was hoping to turn a profit by collecting the full amount that Kine would have had to pay the seller had Guggenheim not paid the invoice for them. That is good.
Right? Yeah, and so let's say on every $100, he's making 20. If it's $1 million, what's that? 200,000? 200?
You're saying legally, according to American law, Google might be right.
I'm not saying anything yet. This is a very different case. We're just saying that we haven't even come to this.
No, because you said according to American law, if he wants to profit by it, then
That was by doing work. It's not got to do with a loan. Okay? So here he pays off the loan, but he's got an ulterior motive. He wants to make money off of doing that. All right. So you know what? Exercise 1 is asking us to write down what we think are similar and what we think is different between case 1 and case 2. So any ideas? If you look at learning exercise 2, that really gives you the ideas, the differences and similarities. Let's try and do it without looking at exercise 2 first. Both are unsolicited. Very good. That's how the person is not asking for the service. So that is how they're similar. That's really the only similarity.
well, they also both stand to gain.
They do not both stand to gain. They do not both stand to gain. The homeowner stands to gain. Kind does not stand to gain. How does he?
No, I'm saying the other way. The guy who does it, the contractor at Googleheim.
Oh, okay. Fine. The contractor stands to gain because he's going to get paid for his costs and labor. Well, you see, what we... In the case with Rav, he says to him, go and assess the costs and the value of the improvement, which would be the goods plus the value of the work, right? The value of the improvement always has to take into account the labor. Right, right. This is different though, because we're dealing with a loan and not with a property transaction. So yeah, they do both stand to gain. They're both doing business. Differences. Huh?
One's worth the one's money.
Okay. Right.
I would say the intentions also of the person who was doing it. I would say the contractor was doing an act of good deed, whereas Googleheim was intending to make a profit.
Okay.
Not
Okay.
exactly, but yes.
Right, right. He wasn't thinking that he was going to cause Kind to pay more money. Kind was just going to pay whatever he had to, but yeah, he was using the situation to make money on it. Yeah.
Because he wouldn't have legally to it, so he would tell him to. Because if he would have told him about it, it would have been like lending him money at interest. So that's really his only way of doing it, even if,
Right.
say even if he assumes that Kind would want it, because why not, it doesn't hurt. You kind of can't tell him.
That's very interesting. So let's say he would have told him in month number 3. No, he could have said to him in month number 3, I'll pay the loan for you and you'll get the discount. He would be giving him a gift.
Yeah, but he wants to make the money.
Yes, but I'm saying he could have told him and not taken the difference. He could have just paid it off. That would be a very good deed. But you're saying if he wanted the money, then it would have been like interest. Huh?
I have the money now. Let me pay it early. Make the money.
Yes, but he would not be able, if he paid it early, let's say he paid off $80, then he cannot later say to Kind, pay me $100. But let's see.
Made a legal document.
Okay, wait, because there are other factors.
It is an investment. He's making it.
Okay, so we have to see who actually owns the loan. Does he own the loan at that point? That's really what we're looking. Yeah.
If they're buying somebody's mortgage, it's true.
Okay, but here it's from a yid. All right. All right, so let's just say, I think that if we look at some of the differences, one is that the homeowner does not have to get new gutters, but kind has to repay the loan, right? So that's one difference.
He could default on the loan, he could be allowed to just not pay it. I mean, really, do you really need new gutters? Do you really need to pay what you owe? People default on things all the time.
Yes, but he has at least al pi halacha, he has a legal obligation.
You could give the merchandise back.
Yeah, but what we're saying here is from the perspective of halacha, the homeowner has no legal obligation to fix his gutters. You want to let your property, fall apart. It's your choice. He's not compelled by any Torah authority to fix his gutters, whereas kind has to, right? Secondly, the homeowner benefits from the work, whereas kind does not benefit at all. Kind is not benefiting from the loan that's being paid to him. And the last difference is this. Do you remember it says over here, Rav told this Yid, go and assess both his costs and the value of the improvement and pay him the lesser of the two. He could shop around and find the lowest price. So a homeowner could go and look around, oh yeah, if you want to buy those gutters at this store, they cost so much, but if you can get them here, they would cost less. So then he'd only have to pay the lesser amount. He could shop around and get a good deal for himself, whereas kind cannot shop around. Whereas kind couldn't do that once the deal had gone through. But he may have been able to negotiate with the original person who lent him the money. He might have been able to negotiate a better deal for himself. Do you hear that? That's a very important piece of information, so that kind could go and say, look, I'm having real difficulty paying you the loan. How about you forgo a certain amount of the loan? Give me a 5, rather have, get yourself 90% of what I owe you and forgo 10%, and then he would only have had to pay 90% of the loan. He could have negotiated a better deal for himself, but this way he can no longer negotiate that deal. Okay, yeah.
I think there's another difference also, is that the contractor is taking a risk by providing the service, because there is the chance that the homeowner doesn't want it and
Right.
is not obligated to pay for it.
Right. That's
There's,
There's a risk factor. Yeah, very good. I think that's connected to the first point that we made in this discussion, which is that the homeowner is not obligated legally to get new gutters, whereas kind is obligated. And the flip side of that would be that the homeowner is, the handyman is taking a risk, whereas Gugelheim is not taking a risk because kind has to pay it back to him. So in exercise number 2, we now have those 3 differences, but whom do they favor? So let's go through, yeah.
Tom and Harry are comparing the 2 cases about, they agree that Gugelheim is similar to a contractor, and that he decides on his own to offer.
She's reading exercise number 2.
And that, sure, and that kind of side of the homeowner has to pay for a service that was never requested. Like they all think there are important differences between the pieces.
Keep
Does
on.
not necessarily need to do the improvement, but sooner or later, the borrower will have to repay his debt. Does
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Okay, does Tom's argument favor Gugelheim?
Okay, so whom does that favor? That the borrower will have to repay his debt.
Google Hunt.
No, there was kind of, because he's saying the original thing was that you need it to evaluate. He's not, like, are you going to use it?
So it's saying that kind in any case is going to have to pay that debt.
He needed it.
So it favors Gugelheim because Yeah, right. So what we're looking at over here is he says, look, Kind's going to have to pay it in any case, and therefore Guggenheim stands a good chance of getting that debt repaid. Next.
Dick says, the homeowner receives a tangible improvement for which the contractor deserves to be paid. But what benefit has Guggenheim done Kind by paying his debt? Does Dick's argument favor Guggenheim or Kind?
Whom does that favor? Kind, right? Because he didn't get any benefits. So what? Listen, you fixed the guy's gutters and you saved him damage to his property. Very nice of you. But here, I have to pay you the debt or him the debt. Who cares? I haven't benefited in any way at all. You didn't pay my debt off early and tell me that I could pay less money. Last.
Harry says, the homeowner can get the gutters done for less, but Kind might have been able to negotiate a more generous repayment for himself because he's an old friend of Midler. Does Harry's argument favor Guggenheim or Kind? Whose argument do you find most?
Okay, so let's just go with that. Does Harry's argument favor Guggenheim or Kind? It favors Kind. Because Kind could say, listen, I could have come to him and negotiated better terms for myself. I could have landed up having to pay him $10,000 less than what I have to pay you. $500.